What if your procrastination wasn't a weakness, but actually the key to unlocking your greatest achievements? In this exclusive guide, you'll discover how to turn your brain's resistance into unstoppable momentum. Trick yourself into success. Audiobook. Introduction. Everything you've been told about beating procrastination is a lie. The countless productivity hacks, morning routines, and willpower strategies. They're not just ineffective, they're actively sabotaging your success. Right now, you're sitting with a familiar weight of unfinished tasks. That important project you've been meaning to start. The email you need to send. The decision you keep postponing. Each day you promise yourself, tomorrow will be different, yet find yourself caught in the same cycle of delay and self-doubt. But here's what no one has told you. Your procrastination isn't the enemy. It's a misunderstood ally. A powerful force that can be redirected to fuel extraordinary achievement. The real problem isn't your lack of discipline or motivation. It's that you've been fighting against your brain's natural patterns instead of working with them. This audiobook introduces a revolutionary approach called strategic self-deception, a science-backed method that transforms procrastination from a barrier into a catalyst for action. Through 5 transformative phases, you'll discover how to turn your brain's resistance into automatic momentum, harness psychological triggers that make action irresistible, create environment scripts that eliminate decision fatigue, master the art of productive procrastination, build unstoppable achievement systems that work with your natural tendencies. By understanding and redirecting your brain's inherent patterns, you won't just overcome procrastination. You'll transform it into your greatest asset for achieving extraordinary success. This isn't about forcing yourself to change. It's about aligning your actions with your brain's natural tendencies to make achievement inevitable. Chapter 1. The Battle in Your Brain. You've done everything right. The morning sun streams through your window as you sit at your meticulously organized desk, fresh coffee steaming beside your carefully prepared to-do list. You've followed all the productivity advice: waking up early, exercising, meditation, healthy breakfast. This is finally going to be the day you conquer that important project. Then it begins. Your brain, that remarkable organ that's helped humanity achieve countless breakthroughs, starts its subtle sabotage. Just check email first, it whispers. You should really organize your files before starting. An hour disappears into a rabbit hole of preliminary research. Another 30 minutes vanish as you convince yourself that reorganizing your workspace will somehow make the task easier. By noon, despite your perfect morning routine and genuine intentions, you've managed to accomplish everything except the one thing that actually matters. Sound familiar? This isn't a failure of willpower or discipline. It's your brain doing exactly what it evolved to do over millions of years. Avoid uncertainty and seek immediate rewards. Modern neuroscience has revealed something fascinating about procrastination. It's not a character flaw, but a natural consequence of how our brains process potential threats and rewards. Research has shown that when we face tasks that trigger uncertainty or discomfort, our amygdala, the brain's threat detection center, activates as if we're facing physical danger. This triggers what neuroscientists call the threat response cascade, leading us to instinctively avoid the perceived threat by seeking comfort in easier, more immediately rewarding activities. Take Elon Musk's early days at PayPal, where his tendency to hyper-focus on coding while avoiding critical business decisions nearly derailed the company. Instead of fighting this tendency, Musk studied his own behavior patterns and made a surprising discovery. His procrastination wasn't random. It followed predictable patterns tied to specific types of tasks and times of day. This insight led him to develop his famous time blocking system, where he works with his brain's natural rhythms rather than against them. By understanding that his tendency to dive deep into technical problems wasn't a flaw, but a feature of his brain's wiring, Musk transformed what could have been a career-limiting weakness into one of his greatest strengths. He didn't eliminate his procrastination. He redirected it, using his brain's natural tendency to avoid certain tasks as a signal for what needed systematic attention. This brings us to you and your brain's unique patterns. The key to transformation isn't fighting your procrastination, but understanding it as valuable feedback. Your brain isn't your enemy. It's sending you sophisticated signals about how it naturally processes different types of tasks and challenges. Take Alexandra, a graphic designer who struggled with client projects despite genuine passion for her work. Rather than berating herself for procrastination, she began tracking when and how her brain created resistance. She discovered that her procrastination peaked when starting new projects, but disappeared once she was in the flow. This insight led her to develop a warm-up routine, starting each project with simple sketches rather than diving straight into final designs. By working with her brain's natural tendency to ease into challenging tasks, she transformed her productivity without fighting her natural patterns. Your path to extraordinary achievement begins with this same kind of self-awareness. Tonight, I want you to try something different. Instead of making another plan to do better tomorrow, spend 5 minutes documenting your resistance patterns today. When did you procrastinate? What tasks triggered avoidance? What activities did your brain suggest as alternatives? Don't judge or try to fix anything. Simply observe and note the patterns. This simple exercise isn't just about gathering data. It's the first step in decoding your brain's natural operating system. By understanding these patterns, you'll begin to see your procrastination not as an obstacle to overcome, but as valuable feedback guiding you toward more effective ways of working with your brain's natural tendencies. Your challenge. For the next 3 days, keep a small notebook nearby. Each evening, spend 5 minutes noting when you felt resistance during the day and what alternative activities your brain suggested. Don't try to change anything yet. Just observe and document. This awareness is the foundation for everything that follows. Chapter 2. The Motivation Myth. It's happening again. Late at night, you're deep into YouTube watching someone share their incredible transformation story. Your heart races as you imagine your own breakthrough. This is it, the spark you've been waiting for. You grab your notebook, sketch out an ambitious plan, and fall asleep dreaming of all you'll accomplish tomorrow. Morning arrives. The inspiration that felt so powerful last night has evaporated like morning dew. You stare at your detailed plan, but instead of feeling that surge of motivation, you feel nothing. The tasks that seemed exciting in your midnight planning session now look overwhelming. You tell yourself you'll start when you're feeling more motivated, more energized, more ready. But here's the truth that most self-help advice gets wrong. Motivation isn't the fuel for action. Action is the fuel for motivation. Waiting to feel motivated before taking action is like waiting to feel fit before going to the gym. It's backward thinking that guarantees failure. The science behind this is fascinating. Research has shown that the brain's reward centers respond more strongly to progress than to plans. When you take action, no matter how small, your brain releases small amounts of dopamine. This neurochemical response creates what scientists call an upward spiral. Action leads to feeling good, which makes more action more likely. Consider Jerry Seinfeld's famous "don't break the chain" productivity method. Early in his career, Seinfeld recognized a crucial truth. His success wouldn't come from bursts of inspiration, but from consistent daily writing. He developed a simple system: hang a big calendar on the wall and mark an X for each day he wrote jokes. His goal wasn't to write brilliant material every day. It was simply not to break the chain of X's. What made this approach so powerful wasn't just its simplicity. It was how it completely sidestepped the motivation question. Seinfeld didn't wait to feel creative or inspired. He understood that the act of writing would generate its own momentum. Some days produced genius, others mediocrity, but the system kept him moving forward regardless of his emotional state. This brings us to a revolutionary concept. What if, instead of trying to generate motivation, you simply removed it from the equation entirely? What if you built systems that worked whether you felt motivated or not? Take Cassie, an engineer who struggled with consistent exercise. Like many, she'd start strong whenever motivation struck, only to abandon her routine when that initial enthusiasm faded. Her breakthrough came when she stopped trying to motivate herself entirely. Instead, she created what she called her robot routine. Every day at 6 p.m., her phone would buzz. No decision-making, no internal debate, no need for motivation. When the buzz happened, she put on her workout clothes and walked out the door. The first week was mechanical and joyless. But something interesting happened by week 2. Without the pressure to feel motivated, without the guilt of not feeling pumped enough to exercise, Cassie found herself actually enjoying her workouts more. By removing motivation from the equation, she'd accidentally discovered it, but only after she stopped chasing it. This principle applies to any goal you're pursuing. The key is to build systems that trigger action directly, bypassing the unreliable middleman of motivation. Your brain will try to convince you that you need to feel ready, inspired, or energized before starting. This is a lie, one that has probably cost you countless hours of productivity. The most successful people aren't more motivated than you. They've just learned to act without requiring motivation. They understand that motivation is a byproduct of action, not a prerequisite for it. Here's your challenge. Right now, not later, not when you feel more ready. Pick the smallest task from your procrastination list. Something that would take 2 minutes or less to complete. Now, without preparation, without planning, without trying to feel motivated, stand up and do it. Don't break this moment by thinking about it. Move before your brain can generate resistance. This isn't just about completing one small task. It's about experiencing firsthand how action precedes motivation. Feel how different this is from your usual pattern of waiting to feel ready. Notice how completing even a tiny task creates its own energy, its own momentum. The path to extraordinary achievement isn't paved with motivation. It's built on the humble foundation of consistent action, regardless of how you feel. Your challenge is to embrace this truth not just intellectually, but through immediate action. Stand up now. 2 minutes. Go. Chapter 3. The Environment Edge. You're sitting in your usual spot right now, maybe your desk, your couch, or your favorite coffee shop. Take a moment to look around. What do you see? A phone within arm's reach? A stack of papers? Your laptop? These aren't just objects. They're silent directors choreographing your every move, shaping your decisions before you even make them. Think about your morning routine. Did you consciously decide to check your phone first thing today? Or did its presence on your nightstand make that choice for you? Was picking up that coffee a deliberate decision? Or did muscle memory take over the moment you walked past your kitchen counter? The truth is more unsettling than you might think. Your environment is making most of your decisions for you. The science of environmental psychology reveals a startling reality. Up to 95% of our daily actions are driven by our surroundings, rather than conscious choice. This isn't just about willpower or habits. It's about the invisible architecture of our lives that shapes our behavior at a fundamental level. Observe the revolutionary approach Steve Jobs took when designing Pixar's headquarters. In 2000, Jobs faced a critical challenge. Pixar's artists, animators, and programmers were naturally isolating themselves in department-specific areas, limiting the cross-pollination of ideas that he knew was crucial for innovation. The traditional solution would have been to mandate more meetings or create forced collaboration initiatives. Instead, Jobs made a radical decision. He placed the building's only bathrooms in a central atrium. This seemingly simple choice forced everyone to converge in one space multiple times a day, creating unavoidable opportunities for spontaneous interaction. He then added a massive central mailroom, a cafe, and the main conference rooms to this area, essentially making it impossible for employees to avoid crossing paths with colleagues from other departments. The results were extraordinary. Projects that once suffered from communication gaps began flowing smoothly. Ideas that might never have crossed departmental lines started cross-pollinating. Even more fascinating, employees reported feeling more creative and collaborative, despite being unaware that their environment was orchestrating these interactions. This principle extends far beyond office design. Your brain is constantly scanning your environment for cues about what to do next. These cues trigger automatic responses that bypass your conscious decision-making process entirely. This is why putting your running shoes by the door makes you more likely to exercise, why keeping healthy snacks visible leads to better eating habits, and why the mere presence of your phone can reduce your cognitive capacity, even when it's turned off. The implications of this understanding are revolutionary for overcoming procrastination. Instead of trying to force yourself to be more productive through sheer willpower, you can engineer your environment to make productive actions inevitable and procrastination nearly impossible. Take Jake, a freelance animator who struggled with consistent work habits when he transitioned to working from home. His initial attempts to improve productivity focused on traditional approaches, time management techniques, productivity apps, and setting strict schedules. Nothing stuck until he discovered the power of environmental design. Jake began by analyzing his work patterns and identifying his primary procrastination triggers. He noticed that having his gaming computer visible from his desk created a constant temptation. His phone, always within reach, became a portal to endless distractions. Even the direction his desk faced, looking out onto a busy street, divided his attention. Instead of trying to strengthen his willpower, Jake redesigned his space based on behavioral psychology principles. He created a dedicated work area in a separate room from his gaming setup, positioned his desk to face a blank wall, with natural light coming from the side, and established a phone parking station in another room. He even went as far as to prepare his workspace each evening for the next day, laying out only the essential tools needed for his first task. The transformation was immediate and profound. Without the constant visual triggers for procrastination, Jake found himself naturally flowing into deep work sessions. His productivity doubled, but more importantly, the mental energy he previously spent resisting temptation was now available for creative work. This brings us to the crucial understanding. Your environment isn't just influencing your behavior, it's creating it. Every object in your space is either supporting your goals or undermining them. Every layout choice is either facilitating focus or fragmenting it. There are no neutral elements. The key to leveraging this knowledge lies in understanding three core principles of environmental design. Visual priming shapes behavior. What you see first when you enter a space determines your initial actions. Place tools for productive tasks prominently while hiding potential distractions. Distance equals difficulty. The further something is from you, the less likely you are to use it. Use this to your advantage by creating friction for procrastination activities and removing it for productive ones. Flow follows function. Arrange your space to create natural pathways toward productive activities. Make the desired behavior the path of least resistance. Implementing these principles doesn't require a complete overhaul of your space. Small, strategic changes can have dramatic effects. The key is to make these changes intentional rather than leaving your environment to chance. Your challenge now is to conduct a simple but powerful environmental audit. Take out a piece of paper and divide it into 2 columns. In the first column, list every object within arm's reach of where you typically work. In the second column, mark each item as either supporting or undermining your productivity goals. Then, make 3 immediate changes. Remove one major distraction from your primary workspace entirely. Add one visual cue that triggers your most important daily task. Create one friction point that makes your favorite procrastination activity slightly more difficult to start. This isn't about creating a perfect environment. It's about tipping the scales in favor of productivity. Your surroundings are already controlling your behavior. It's time to take control of your surroundings. Chapter 4. The Hidden Math of Action. E equals T times U divided by R times N. This simple formula, scribbled on a coffee-stained napkin by behavioral economist Dr. Daniel Kahneman during a casual lunch conversation, holds the key to understanding why you take immediate action on some tasks while endlessly delaying others. It's not about willpower or character. It's pure mathematics running in your subconscious mind. Every time you face a task, your brain performs this lightning-fast calculation. Effort, E, equals time required, T, multiplied by unpleasantness, U, divided by reward, R, multiplied by nearness of reward, N. Think about the last time you chose to scroll through social media instead of working on an important project. Your brain wasn't being lazy. It was solving this equation. Social media offers immediate rewards, high N, with minimal effort, low E, while that important project requires sustained focus, high T, with rewards that feel distant, low N. This isn't just theoretical. It's hardwired into your neural circuitry. Neuroscience research has revealed that our brain's reward centers, particularly the nucleus accumbens, respond up to 5 times more strongly to immediate rewards than to delayed ones, regardless of size. This explains why the promise of a small immediate pleasure often overrides our commitment to larger future gains. Warren Buffett understood this principle intuitively when he developed his now famous two-list system for decision-making. The story goes that Buffett's personal pilot, Mike Flint, was frustrated with his lack of career progress and asked for advice. Buffett had him write down his top 25 career goals. Then came the crucial twist. He asked Flint to circle just the top 5 goals. "What about the other 20?" Flint asked. "Those become your avoid-at-all-costs list," Buffett replied. "No matter what, these things get no attention until you've succeeded with your top 5. This system works because it aligns perfectly with our brain's reward calculations. By ruthlessly eliminating competing priorities, Buffett's method increases the perceived nearness and magnitude of rewards for the most important tasks. Instead of diluting our brain's reward anticipation across 25 goals, we concentrated on 5, dramatically shifting the effort-reward equation in favor of action. The key to beating procrastination isn't fighting these calculations. It's manipulating them in your favor. This process, known as reward engineering, involves strategically adjusting the variables in your brain's equation to make important tasks more immediately appealing. Daniel, a software developer, discovered this principle by accident while struggling with a major code refactoring project. The task was daunting, high T, tedious, high U, and the benefits would only be seen months later, low N. His brain's math was clearly saying procrastinate. Instead of trying to force himself to work, Daniel experimented with changing the variables. He broke the project into 20-minute segments, lower T, created a progress visualization that gave him immediate feedback, higher N, and added a personal reward system, a favorite coffee shop visit after each completed segment, higher R. Suddenly, the same task that had seemed impossible became almost irresistible. The most powerful application of this principle is reward stacking strategically combining multiple small, immediate rewards with longer-term benefits. Research shows that when we layer different types of rewards, our brain's response is not merely additive, but multiplicative. Think about your own procrastination equation. For any task you're avoiding, there are at least 3 variables you can adjust. Time. Break it into smaller chunks to reduce the perceived effort cost. Reward. Add immediate micro-rewards to complement long-term benefits. Nearness. Create progress markers that provide instant feedback. The real magic happens when you combine these strategies. Instead of trying to motivate yourself with distant outcomes alone, build a reward ladder that gives your brain something to grab onto at every step. Your challenge now is to apply this formula to a task you've been avoiding. Take 3 minutes to write down. 1 way to reduce the time effort required. 1 immediate reward you can attach to completion. 1 method of making progress more visible. Don't just think about it. Physically write these down right now. Remember, your brain is constantly running these calculations whether you're aware of them or not. By consciously engineering the variables, you can transform any task from a source of procrastination into an invitation for immediate action. Chapter 5. The Time Illusion. 1 hour, 60 minutes, 3,600 seconds. An immutable measurement of time that somehow feels radically different depending on what you're doing. When you're scrolling through social media or binge-watching your favorite show, an hour evaporates like morning mist. Yet when you're tackling that important project, the one that could transform your career, that same hour stretches like molasses in winter. This isn't just your imagination. Your brain literally warps time based on your emotional state, attention, and perceived value of the activity. Understanding this phenomenon isn't just fascinating. It's the key to making time work for you instead of against you. The science behind this temporal distortion is rooted in how your brain processes different types of experiences. Research has shown that novel experiences appear to slow down time in our perception, while familiar or passive activities seem to speed it up. This explains why childhood summers felt endless, while recent years seem to fly by. Your brain pays more attention to new experiences, essentially taking more mental snapshots and creating a denser perception of time. But here's where it gets interesting. You can actively manipulate this mechanism to your advantage. Jeff Bezos demonstrated this principle masterfully when he implemented the 2-pizza team rule at Amazon. The story goes beyond just keeping teams small enough to be fed by 2 pizzas. It reveals a deeper understanding of temporal psychology. In Amazon's early days, Bezos noticed that larger teams not only moved slower, but actually experienced time differently. Projects that should have taken weeks stretched into months as team members fell into what he called temporal diffusion, where responsibility and urgency became diluted across too many people. By limiting teams to the size that could be fed by 2 pizzas, typically 5 to 7 people, Bezos wasn't just improving communication, he was manipulating time perception itself. Each small team operated with heightened urgency and clearer ownership. The same 1-hour meeting that felt endless with 15 people became focused and productive with 6. Team members reported that time seemed to move differently. Deadlines felt more immediate, decisions came faster, and progress accelerated. But Bezos didn't stop there. He combined this with strict time constraints, famously implementing the Day One philosophy to maintain the urgent, fast-paced feeling of a startup, even as Amazon grew into a global giant. This wasn't just motivational speaking. It was sophisticated temporal engineering. The results were extraordinary. Projects that larger companies would estimate at 6 months were completed in weeks. Teams that felt perpetually behind schedule suddenly found themselves ahead of deadlines. The secret wasn't working longer hours. It was changing how team members experienced time itself. This principle extends far beyond corporate settings. Your brain's time-warping tendencies affect every aspect of your life, from personal projects to daily habits. The key is learning to manipulate what neuroscientists call temporal framing, the way your brain packages and processes time-based experiences. Nina, a struggling novelist, discovered this accidentally while battling writer's block. She'd set aside entire weekends to write, but found herself paralyzed by the seemingly endless blocks of time. The more time she had, the less she wrote. Then she stumbled upon an unconventional solution. Instead of scheduling long writing sessions, Nina began setting her phone timer for just 22 minutes, an odd number chosen specifically because it felt more urgent than around 30 minutes. She'd write until the timer went off, then take an 8-minute break, again using precise numbers to maintain the sense of urgency. The results were immediate and dramatic. Those same hours that had felt like endless deserts of procrastination became focused sprints of productivity. By breaking time into unusual increments and creating artificial constraints, Nina tricked her brain into experiencing time differently. Within 6 months, she completed the novel that had been stuck in first draft limbo for years. The science behind Nina's success reveals 3 critical principles of temporal manipulation. First, your brain processes unusual time intervals differently than standard ones. A 22-minute session feels more urgent than 20 minutes because it requires more attention to track, keeping your brain more engaged. Second, shorter intervals with clear endings trigger what psychologists call the goal gradient effect, the tendency to accelerate effort as we approach a finish line. By creating multiple small finish lines instead of one distant deadline, you can maintain consistent momentum. Third, precision in time measurements increases psychological engagement. When you tell your brain approximately an hour, it relaxes. When you specify 52 minutes, it pays attention. These principles can be combined into a powerful technique called temporal priming, strategically structuring time to create optimal psychological states for different types of work. Here's how it works in practice. For creative tasks that require flow, use longer odd-numbered intervals, 37 minutes, 43 minutes, to maintain focus while avoiding the complacency that comes with round numbers. For administrative tasks that you tend to procrastinate on, use shorter, precise intervals, 14 minutes, 18 minutes, to create a sense of urgency and manageable chunks. For learning and skill development, use ascending intervals, 17 minutes, then 23, then 31, to gradually extend your focus while maintaining engagement. The key is customization. Your brain's temporal sweet spots may be different from others. The goal is to find the time structures that create the optimal balance of urgency and focus for your specific tasks and tendencies. This brings us to the most powerful application, the temporal contrast technique. Just as a chef uses contrasting flavors to enhance each taste, you can use contrasting time experiences to enhance productivity. After a period of intense, time-bounded focus, allow yourself a brief period of timeless flow, like a 10-minute walk without checking the clock. This contrast makes returning to focused work more effective. Your brain's perception of time isn't fixed. It's a tool you can learn to wield. The next time you find yourself procrastinating on an important task, remember, the hour isn't the problem. It's how you're experiencing that hour that makes all the difference. Chapter 6. The 5-second decision. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. In that brief countdown lies the difference between action and inaction, between progress and stagnation. Every day, your brain engages in countless micro-decisions, each one a potential turning point. That moment when your alarm rings and you decide whether to rise or hit snooze. The instant when you consider making that important call. The split second before starting a challenging task. These decisive moments happen in the blink of an eye, yet they shape the entire trajectory of your day, and ultimately, your life. What if you could master this critical space between thought and action? What if you could transform these brief windows of opportunity into launching pads for achievement? The science of decision-making reveals something fascinating. Your brain makes choices long before you're consciously aware of them. Neuroscientists studying decision-making patterns have discovered that the brain activity indicating a choice occurs up to 7 seconds before we become consciously aware of our decision. This means your actions are often determined in that subtle space between unconscious impulse and conscious thought. This insight revolutionized life for Mel Robbins, whose struggle with anxiety and procrastination had left her career stalling and her personal life in shambles. One evening, watching a NASA rocket launch on television, she noticed something crucial. The countdown wasn't just for show. It served as a precise activation sequence, a way to bypass complexity and create decisive action. Inspired by this observation, Robbins developed what would become known as the 5-second rule. The premise was simple. When you feel the impulse to act on a goal, count backward from 5 to 1, then move physically. This wasn't just a motivational trick. It was based on solid neurological principles. By counting backward, you engage your brain's prefrontal cortex, interrupting the habit loop that leads to procrastination. The results were immediate and profound. Robbins used this technique to break free from her morning snooze habit, then applied it to progressively bigger challenges. Within a year, she had transformed her career, relationships, and financial situation. The simplicity of the technique belied its power. It worked because it aligned perfectly with how our brains naturally make decisions. The key lies in understanding that your brain processes decisions through two systems: the rapid, instinctive system 1 and the slower, analytical system 2. When you hesitate on taking action, it's usually because system 2 has hijacked the process, leading to overthinking and analysis paralysis. The 5-second countdown works by engaging system 1, bypassing the overthinking that typically leads to procrastination. Lucas, a struggling real estate agent, discovered this principle's power during a particularly challenging period. His tendency to overthink client interactions was causing him to miss crucial opportunities. Sales requires split-second decisions. Hesitate too long, and the moment passes. Implementing a modified version of the 5-second rule, Lucas created what he called instant action triggers. When meeting potential clients, he would silently count backward from 5 the moment he spotted an opportunity to add value or address a concern. This simple technique bypassed his tendency to overanalyze and enabled him to act decisively. Within 3 months, his sales numbers doubled. More importantly, his client satisfaction scores improved dramatically. By removing the delay between recognition and response, he became more authentic and effective in his interactions. His quick, genuine responses built trust faster than his previous carefully calculated approaches ever had. The technique worked because it aligned with a fundamental truth about human psychology. Action precedes motivation. By moving physically within 5 seconds of an impulse, you create momentum that overwhelms mental resistance. This isn't about being reckless. It's about preventing analysis paralysis from killing productive action. The power of this approach lies in its simplicity. You don't need complex strategies or extensive preparation. You only need to master that crucial space between impulse and action. The countdown serves as a clear, actionable bridge between intention and implementation. Chapter 7. The Environment's Hidden Control. Imagine a Formula One driver stepping into their car, only to find the dashboard cluttered with flashing screens, the steering wheel tangled with charging cables, and a smartphone constantly buzzing with notifications. Would anyone blame them for poor performance? Of course not. Yet every day, you attempt to navigate your most important tasks while surrounded by an equally chaotic array of distractions. Then blame yourself when procrastination inevitably strikes. Your environment isn't just a backdrop, it's an active participant in every decision you make. Each object, notification, and visual cue in your space is silently shaping your behavior, creating either resistance or flow in your daily actions. Understanding this truth liberates you from the myth that procrastination is simply a matter of willpower. The science of behavioral architecture reveals that our surroundings influence up to 90% of our daily decisions without our conscious awareness. This explains why even the strongest motivation crumbles in an environment designed for distraction. Your space isn't neutral. It's either working for you or against you. Maya Angelou understood this principle at a profound level. Despite her remarkable talent and discipline, she recognized that creativity required more than just willpower. Her solution was radical yet effective. She would rent a sparse hotel room in every city she wrote in, bringing nothing but legal pads, a Bible, and a bottle of sherry. The room contained only a bed and a small desk facing a blank wall. This wasn't luxury. It was strategic environmental design. By stripping away every possible distraction, Angelou created a space where writing became the path of least resistance. The bare walls eliminated visual noise that could trigger divergent thoughts. The absence of entertainment options meant her brain had no easy escape routes. Even the positioning of her desk, facing a blank wall instead of a window, was intentional, forcing focus inward rather than outward. The results speak for themselves. In these austere rooms, Angelou produced some of the most celebrated works in American literature. Her environment didn't just support her writing, it made writing inevitable. The space itself became a creative force, channeling her energy toward production rather than procrastination. This principle extends far beyond writing. Your physical space is constantly broadcasting subtle signals to your brain, creating either friction or flow toward your intended actions. Every object in your environment is either a trigger for productivity or a potential distraction. The key is learning to read these signals and then deliberately redesign your space to make procrastination physically difficult. Ramon, an editor transitioning to remote work, discovered this truth through painful experience. His home office, originally set up as a casual workspace, had become a maze of procrastination triggers. His gaming console sat visible in his peripheral vision, his phone remained within arm's reach, and his desk faced a window overlooking a busy street. After studying environmental psychology, Ramon embarked on a radical redesign of his workspace. He created what he called his productivity temple, a space engineered specifically for focused work. The transformation included: his gaming setup was moved to a separate room, creating physical distance between work and leisure. His desk was repositioned to face a minimal wall decorated only with his quarterly goals. His phone gained a dedicated parking spot outside his office during work hours. The lighting was adjusted to mimic his most productive workspace from his former office. The impact was immediate and profound. Without the constant visual reminders of potential distractions, Ramon's brain stopped generating excuses for procrastination. His environment now guided him naturally toward productive states, making focus the default rather than the exception. The most powerful aspect of environmental design is that it works even when willpower is low. Unlike motivation, which fluctuates daily, your environment maintains constant influence over your behavior. By intentionally structuring your space, you create a powerful ally in your battle against procrastination. The key is understanding that every object in your environment is either promoting or preventing your desired behavior. That stack of unread books isn't neutral. It's either inspiring action or generating guilt. That visible phone isn't just a tool. It's a constant invitation to distraction. Your space is speaking to you constantly through these objects, either supporting or sabotaging your intentions. Now it's time to turn this knowledge into action. Your challenge is to conduct an immediate environment audit. Take out your phone and photograph your primary workspace. Study that image for 3 full minutes, identifying every single object that has triggered procrastination in the past week. Then, make one immediate physical change to your environment. Right now, before moving on. Remove one distraction, adjust one element, or optimize one aspect of your space. This isn't about creating a perfect workspace. It's about taking the first step toward making your environment work for you rather than against you. What one change will you make right now? Chapter 8. The Power of Unfinished Business. You're watching your favorite show, completely absorbed in a pivotal scene. The tension builds, the music swells, the main character is about to make a life-changing decision, and suddenly your screen goes black. Power outage. How does your brain react? That gnawing sensation of incompletion isn't just frustration. It's one of the most powerful psychological forces you possess. This same feeling haunts you when you leave tasks unfinished. That project proposal sitting at 80% completion. The half-organized closet. The email draft you haven't sent. Each incomplete task creates a subtle psychological tension that your brain desperately wants to resolve. While this tension often feels like a burden, it's actually a hidden superpower in disguise. The Zeigarnik effect, named after Soviet psychologist Bluma Zeigarnik, reveals that unfinished tasks create a cognitive tension that commands our attention until completion. This isn't just an annoying quirk of human psychology. It's an evolutionary advantage that kept our ancestors alive by ensuring they completed vital tasks. Your brain literally cannot let go of unfinished business. Ernest Hemingway masterfully exploited this psychological principle in his writing routine. Rather than writing until he was completely drained each day, he deliberately stopped mid-scene, often mid-sentence, when his writing was flowing best. This seemingly counterintuitive approach created an irresistible psychological hook that drew him back to work the next morning. The best way is always to stop when you are going good, Hemingway explained. That way your subconscious mind will work on it all the time. By intentionally leaving his work unfinished at a high point, he transformed the Zeigarnik effect from a source of anxiety into a powerful motivational force. This principle extends far beyond writing. Your brain's completion bias can be strategically leveraged to overcome procrastination in any area of life. The key is understanding that unfinished tasks aren't just responsibilities. They're psychological triggers that can be intentionally set to create productive tension. The most effective application of this principle isn't leaving tasks randomly incomplete, but rather engineering strategic stopping points that create maximum psychological pull. This means identifying the peak tension moments in any task, points where completion feels most urgent and satisfying. Consider how video game designers use this principle. They don't let you save your game at any random point. They strategically place save points just before major rewards or challenges, creating an irresistible urge to continue playing. You can apply this same psychology to your most important tasks. Michelle, a freelance graphic designer, struggled with project procrastination until she discovered the power of strategic incompletion. Instead of trying to complete designs in one sitting, she began deliberately stopping at specific points in her creative process, right after sketching the initial concept, but before adding color, or after perfecting one key element, leaving related elements untouched. This approach transformed her workflow. Each incomplete element created a psychological itch that her brain needed to scratch. Rather than forcing herself to work through willpower, she found herself naturally drawn back to her projects, eager to resolve the tension of unfinished elements. Her productivity doubled, not through working longer hours, but by aligning her task management with her brain's natural tendencies. The key to Michelle's success wasn't just leaving things unfinished, it was choosing the right stopping points. She learned to identify what she calls tension peaks, in her creative process, moments where the next step feels most compelling. By deliberately pausing at these points, she created psychological hooks that pulled her back into action. This strategy can be applied to any task or project. The secret lies in breaking work into segments that end at points of maximum psychological tension. Think of it like creating your own cliffhangers, strategic pauses that make your brain crave completion. Chapter 9. The Power of Microscopic Action. What if the secret to climbing Everest is not looking up at the summit, but down at your next step? Your brain freezes when facing massive challenges. That promotion you're pursuing, the business you want to start, the novel you dream of writing. These grand aspirations often paralyze rather than motivate, leaving you stuck in a cycle of inaction and self-doubt. But hidden within this paralysis lies a profound truth about human psychology and achievement that will transform how you approach every goal. When you stare at a mountain summit, your brain's threat response activates with surprising intensity. It's not just metaphorical overwhelm. Your nervous system literally treats massive goals as threats, triggering the same stress responses that protected our ancestors from predators. Your palms sweat, your heart races, and your mind floods with reasons to delay. This biological reaction makes procrastination not just likely, but nearly inevitable, hardwired into your neural circuitry. The solution isn't greater motivation or stronger willpower. These traditional approaches often backfire, creating more resistance. It's understanding how your brain processes commitments and leveraging this knowledge to bypass resistance entirely. This is where the science of microscaling transforms everything you thought you knew about achievement, offering a revolutionary path forward. James Clear's transformation from a devastating baseball injury to becoming a leading expert on habit formation illustrates this principle perfectly. After a horrific accident in high school left him in a coma, Clear's recovery journey seemed impossibly daunting. Rather than focusing on his ultimate goal of returning to sports, he began with a commitment so small it seemed almost meaningless: doing one push-up per day. This singular choice would reshape not just his recovery, but his entire understanding of human behavior. This wasn't just about starting small. It was about understanding how the brain processes commitments at their most fundamental level. Clear discovered that by making his initial action ridiculously easy, he bypassed his brain's threat response entirely. That single push-up grew into a comprehensive fitness routine, eventually leading to his becoming a collegiate athlete. More importantly, this experience revealed the transformative power of microscopic commitments in creating lasting change. The key insight isn't about the size of your actions. It's about how your brain perceives them. When a commitment feels small enough to be almost laughable, your brain's resistance mechanisms don't activate. It's like sneaking past your mental bouncer while they're distracted. This psychological sleight of hand opens the door to extraordinary achievement through ordinary actions. This principle extends far beyond physical goals, reaching into every aspect of personal growth and achievement. Your brain processes all commitments through the same fundamental mechanisms, whether they're physical, intellectual, or creative challenges. Whether you're writing a book, building a business, or learning a new skill, the psychology remains constant. Microscopic commitments bypass resistance and create momentum. The real magic happens in how these tiny actions compound over time, creating a cascade of positive changes. Each micro-commitment creates what neuroscientists call a success trigger, a small win that releases dopamine and builds momentum. These aren't just steps toward your goal. They're psychological dominoes that make subsequent actions easier and more natural, creating an upward spiral of achievement. Olivia, a former corporate employee, transformed her dream of entrepreneurship through this exact approach. After years of procrastinating on starting her online business, she abandoned her all-or-nothing mentality that had kept her stuck. Instead of trying to build an entire business plan, she committed to spending just 2 minutes each morning brainstorming product ideas. This tiny commitment became her gateway to action. Those 2 minutes regularly stretched into longer sessions, not through force or discipline, but through natural engagement and genuine interest. Within 6 months, this microscopic commitment had grown into a thriving online boutique, generating consistent revenue. The key wasn't working harder, it was making the initial commitment so small that her brain couldn't find a reason to resist. The science behind this approach is fascinating and well documented. Research shows that the brain's perception of task size directly influences procrastination likelihood. Tasks that feel manageable trigger approach motivation. We naturally want to engage with them. Conversely, tasks that feel overwhelming trigger avoidance responses, regardless of their actual difficulty or importance. This explains why you might spend hours scrolling through social media, small manageable actions, while avoiding important projects, perceived as large, threatening commitments. By consciously manipulating this perception through microscaling, you can hack your brain's natural tendencies and redirect them toward meaningful achievement. The 2-Minute Revolution Challenge will demonstrate this principle in action. Select your most procrastinated project, the one that's been haunting your to-do list for weeks or months. Now identify an action related to this project that would take less than 2 minutes to complete. Make it so ridiculously small that it would feel more awkward to avoid it than to do it. This tiny commitment will become your bridge from inaction to unstoppable momentum. Chapter 10. The Art of Strategic Self-Deception. Want to know the most powerful lie you can tell? The one you tell yourself when you know you're lying. This paradox holds the key to unlocking unprecedented levels of achievement, revealing a fascinating quirk of human psychology that turns conventional wisdom about honesty and success on its head. In fact, this counterintuitive approach might be exactly what you've been missing in your quest for extraordinary results. Your brain operates on 2 distinct levels: the conscious mind that knows the full scope of challenges ahead, and the subconscious mind that can be strategically misdirected for your benefit. Understanding this dual nature opens up extraordinary possibilities for breaking through procrastination and resistance. The magic happens in the space between these 2 levels of awareness. When you deliberately trick yourself into action while fully aware of the deception, something remarkable happens. Your brain's threat detection system, which typically triggers procrastination when facing daunting tasks, gets temporarily bypassed. This creates a unique state of productive self-deception where both knowledge and strategic ignorance coexist to serve your goals. It's like having a secret superpower that activates precisely because you acknowledge its artificial nature. Richard Branson's journey with Virgin Airlines perfectly illustrates this principle. When launching the airline, Branson knew the immense complexities and challenges of entering the aviation industry. However, he deliberately maintained what he later called productive delusion, consciously downplaying obstacles while being fully aware of their magnitude. This wasn't denial or naive optimism. It was strategic self-deception at its finest. He embraced the paradox of knowing, yet choosing not to know. Instead of letting his mind fixate on the overwhelming details of aircraft regulations, route planning, and competitive challenges, Branson focused on simple, engaging questions like, how can we make flying fun? He knew he was selectively ignoring crucial difficulties, but this strategic self-deception allowed him to maintain momentum where others would have become paralyzed by the full scope of the challenge. His conscious choice to compartmentalize complexity became his competitive advantage. This approach isn't about denying reality. It's about temporarily restructuring your perception of it to enable action. Your brain responds differently to "I'm building an airline" versus "I'm solving one interesting problem about air travel." The outcome is identical, but the psychological impact varies dramatically. This subtle shift in framing, can make the difference between paralysis and progress. The key is maintaining awareness of the deception while still allowing it to work its magic. Think of it like watching a magic show. You might know it's an illusion, but that knowledge doesn't diminish its effectiveness. Similarly, acknowledging your strategic self-deception doesn't reduce its power to drive action. In fact, this awareness enhances its impact by turning it into a conscious tool rather than an unconscious coping mechanism. Thomas, a struggling novelist, discovered this principle accidentally while battling severe writer's block. After months of staring at a blank document, overwhelmed by the magnitude of writing a novel, he started pretending he was just writing casual emails to a friend about an interesting story idea. This conscious pretense, which he knew was false, transformed his entire creative process. The self-imposed illusion became his bridge to real achievement. Each day, Thomas would lie to himself about just writing another quick email, all while fully aware he was actually crafting his novel. This strategic self-deception bypassed his brain's resistance to the daunting task of writing a book. Within 6 months, he had completed his first draft, simply by maintaining this productive pretense. His success came not from denying the reality of his goal, but from consciously reframing it in a way that enabled consistent action. The power of this approach lies in its transparency. When you acknowledge the deception up front, it becomes a tool rather than a crutch. It's like having an inside joke with yourself, one that consistently produces results despite, or perhaps because of, its obvious nature. This conscious collaboration with your own psychology creates a unique form of mental leverage. The productive pretense exercise will help you implement this principle immediately. Choose your most challenging current task, the one your brain automatically resists. Now, consciously create an alternative framing that makes it feel deceptively manageable. The key is to choose a pretense that you know is technically false, but still allows you to engage with the task differently. Your awareness of the pretense becomes part of its power. For instance, if you're procrastinating on starting a business, pretend you're just playing around with interesting ideas for a few minutes. If a presentation is paralyzing you, tell yourself you're just chatting with friends about something cool you learned. The conscious acknowledgement that you're engaging in strategic self-deception actually enhances its effectiveness rather than diminishing it. This transparency with yourself creates a powerful alliance between your conscious and subconscious mind. This exercise isn't about fooling yourself permanently. It's about creating a productive cognitive environment that enables action. The more openly you acknowledge the pretense, the more effectively it works as a tool for bypassing resistance and generating momentum. Your conscious participation in the deception transforms it from a mere psychological trick into a sophisticated strategy for achievement. What's the most empowering lie you can tell yourself today, knowing it's a lie, to drive action toward your most important goal? Your answer to this question might just unlock the next level of your potential. Chapter 11. The Productive Procrastinator. You'll never stop procrastinating, and that's exactly how you'll succeed. This statement might seem like heresy after everything we've explored about overcoming procrastination, but it holds a powerful truth that could revolutionize your productivity. What if your tendency to procrastinate isn't a flaw to be eliminated, but a force to be redirected? Every time you avoid one task, you're inevitably drawn to another. This natural tendency creates an energy, an avoidance energy, that most people waste fighting against. But this energy, when properly channeled, can become your secret weapon for extraordinary achievement. The key isn't to stop procrastinating, it's to procrastinate strategically. Think of procrastination like water in a river. You can try to block it completely, but the pressure will keep building until it breaks through. Or you can create channels that direct that same force toward turning productive wheels. This is the essence of structured procrastination, the art of using your natural avoidance tendencies to accomplish meaningful work. Lin-Manuel Miranda's journey with Hamilton provides a fascinating example of this principle in action. While working on In the Heights, Miranda found himself consistently procrastinating on script revisions by reading Ron Chernow's biography of Alexander Hamilton. Instead of fighting this tendency, he leaned into it. Those procrastination sessions sparked the initial ideas for what would become one of the most successful musicals in Broadway history. What's particularly revealing about Miranda's experience is that he didn't try to force himself back to his original task. Instead, he recognized that his procrastination was leading him towards something equally valuable. This wasn't random avoidance. It was his creative mind naturally gravitating toward a project that would ultimately prove more impactful than what he was supposed to be doing. The key insight here is that procrastination often reveals what truly engages us. When we constantly avoid certain tasks in favor of others, we're receiving valuable signals about where our energy naturally wants to flow. The trick is learning to structure our responsibilities so that this natural flow serves our larger goals. This requires a fundamental shift in how you view task management. Instead of maintaining a simple to-do list, you need to create what I call a procrastination pyramid, a strategic hierarchy of tasks that makes productive procrastination inevitable. At the top, place important but slightly intimidating tasks that you're likely to avoid. Below them, position equally valuable but more engaging tasks that you naturally gravitate toward. Isabella, a marketing professional, mastered this approach while building her own business. Rather than fighting her tendency to procrastinate on client reports, she structured her days so that her procrastination activities were actually building blocks for her side business. When avoiding a particularly daunting report, she would procrastinate by working on her business website, engaging with potential customers, or creating content for her brand. The brilliance of Isabella's approach wasn't that she stopped procrastinating, it was that she made her procrastination productive. Every time she avoided one important task, she accomplished another. Within 18 months, her procrastination project had grown into a thriving business that eventually allowed her to leave her corporate job entirely. This strategy works because it aligns with your brain's natural tendencies rather than fighting against them. When you feel resistance toward one task, instead of forcing yourself to push through or falling into unproductive avoidance, you simply pivot to another valuable activity. This maintains momentum while respecting your brain's need for psychological variety. The priority pivot technique makes this practical and repeatable. Start by identifying your high-resistance tasks, the ones you consistently avoid. Then, instead of trying to force yourself to complete them immediately, create a list of equally important but more engaging tasks that you can pivot to when avoidance strikes. The key is ensuring that these alternative tasks genuinely advance your goals rather than just filling time. Here's where most productivity systems go wrong. They assume all procrastination is negative and try to eliminate it entirely. But your procrastination tendencies are trying to tell you something important about your natural work rhythms and preferences. By listening to these signals and structuring your work accordingly, you can transform procrastination from an obstacle into an ally. Your challenge now is to create your own procrastination pyramid. Take your current to-do list and reorganize it into 3 tiers. Top-tier tasks you tend to avoid, middle-tier tasks you find engaging, and bottom-tier tasks that serve as productive breaks. The goal isn't to tackle everything in order, but to ensure that when you inevitably procrastinate on top-tier tasks, you naturally fall into middle-tier activities that still move you forward. What's the most productive thing you could accomplish today while avoiding something else? Chapter 12. Turn work into play. The clock reads 3 a.m., but you barely notice. Your fingers dance across the keyboard, executing the same sequence of actions you've performed hundreds of times tonight. Collect resources, craft items, defeat enemies, level up. The cycle continues, and hours evaporate like morning mist. You're grinding in a video game, performing repetitive tasks to gain experience or resources, and somehow, this objectively monotonous activity has completely captured your attention. Now imagine your most procrastinated task. Perhaps it's organizing financial records, writing that business proposal, or tackling the mountain of emails in your inbox. Why does one form of repetitive activity completely absorb you while the other feels like pulling teeth? The answer lies not in the activities themselves, but in how your brain perceives and processes them. Games tap into fundamental psychological triggers that transform mundane actions into compelling experiences. They create artificial challenges, immediate feedback loops, and a sense of measurable progress that hijacks your brain's reward systems. This isn't just about entertainment. It's about understanding and harnessing one of the most powerful motivational forces known to psychology. David Goggins, former Navy SEAL and ultramarathon runner, discovered this principle during his military training. Facing brutal physical challenges that seemed impossible to overcome, Goggins developed what he called the cookie jar method. He turned each grueling workout into a personal game, creating specific challenges and metrics to beat. Instead of thinking, "I have to run 20 miles," he would set up mini-games. "Can I beat my time to the next checkpoint?" Or, "How many more steps can I take before needing a break?" What made Goggins' approach particularly effective was how he gamified not just the activities themselves, but the mental challenges they presented. He created a scoring system for pushing through pain, awarded himself points for maintaining focus during difficult moments, and treated each completed challenge as a cookie he could mentally store away and draw upon during future trials. This transformed his relationship with discomfort from something to avoid into something to actively pursue for points and progress. The power of this approach lies in its ability to bypass your brain's natural resistance to difficult tasks. When you frame a challenge as a game, you activate different neural pathways than when you approach it as work. Your brain shifts from threat response mode into challenge response mode, releasing performance-enhancing neurochemicals instead of stress hormones. This isn't about adding superficial points and badges to your tasks. It's about fundamentally restructuring how you engage with challenges. The key is creating game mechanics that align with your brain's natural reward systems while serving your larger goals. Observe these core elements of effective gamification. Challenge calibration. Games are most engaging when they operate at the edge of your current abilities. Too easy and you get bored. Too hard and you get frustrated. The sweet spot lies in creating challenges that stretch you while remaining achievable. Clear feedback loops. Games provide immediate, concrete feedback about your progress. Every action has a visible consequence, making it easier for your brain to form positive associations with productive behaviors. Progressive complexity. Good games gradually increase in difficulty as your skills improve, maintaining engagement through constant, manageable challenge escalation. Meaningful rewards. The reward system must connect to something you genuinely value, whether it's personal achievement, social recognition, or tangible benefits. Michael, a marketing executive struggling with consistent exercise, applied these principles to transform his fitness routine. He created Developer's Defense, a game where each workout represented a battle against bug monsters threatening his code kingdom. Different exercises became different types of attacks, with rep counts translating to damage points. He tracked his character stats, actual fitness metrics, using a simple spreadsheet, watching them improve over time. The brilliance of Michael's system wasn't in its complexity, but in how it reframed exercise from a dreaded obligation into an engaging narrative he wanted to participate in. Within 3 months, he had maintained the longest consistent workout streak of his life, all while having fun with his character progression. To apply this to your own procrastinated tasks, start with the game layer framework. First, identify the core activities involved in your procrastinated task. Break them down into their smallest component parts. These will become your basic game actions. Next, create a simple but engaging scoring system. The key is making it meaningful to you personally. Points should reflect real progress toward your goals, not just arbitrary numbers. Then, establish clear win conditions and level up moments. These create natural breakpoints that give you a sense of achievement and progression. Finally, design rewards that matter to you. These can be as simple as checking off items on a progress tracker, or as elaborate as treating yourself to something special after reaching certain milestones. The goal isn't to create an elaborate gaming system that becomes another form of procrastination. Instead, you want to harness just enough game mechanics to shift your brain's perception of the task from burden to challenge. Start small. Take one specific task you've been avoiding and apply a single game element to it. Maybe it's tracking a streak of daily actions, setting up a point system for completed subtasks, or creating boss battles for major milestones. Your challenge for today: choose your most procrastinated task and create a simple game framework around it. Include these 3 elements: a basic scoring system, how you'll measure progress; 3 levels of achievement, beginner, intermediate, expert; 1 meaningful reward for reaching each level. Keep it simple enough to start immediately, but engaging enough to maintain your interest. Remember, the best game is the one you'll actually play. What kind of game will you design to level up your productivity? Chapter 13. The Power of Productive Uncertainty. The Wright brothers never saw a complete blueprint of a working airplane before they flew. And that's exactly why they succeeded. Think about that for a moment. While their contemporaries spent years drafting detailed plans and seeking perfect understanding, Orville and Wilbur were in a field, testing, failing, and learning through action. They didn't wait for complete clarity. They created it through movement. You're sitting there right now, probably with several ideas, projects, or changes you want to make in your life. But something holds you back. You tell yourself you need more information, more planning, more certainty before you can begin. This seems logical, responsible even. Yet this very reasoning, this quest for perfect clarity, might be the sophisticated cage keeping you trapped in inaction. Your brain craves certainty. It's a survival mechanism hardwired into your neural circuitry. Uncertainty triggers the same threat response in your amygdala as physical danger. This explains why you feel that subtle resistance when facing unclear outcomes. Your brain is literally treating uncertainty as a threat to your survival. But here's the paradox. Clarity doesn't come from thinking and planning. It comes from action and engagement. This isn't just motivational rhetoric. It's backed by cognitive science. Your brain creates new neural pathways through experience, not through contemplation. The more you engage with uncertainty, the more your brain adapts to handle it effectively. Sarah Blakely, the founder of Spanx, embodies this principle perfectly. When she had the initial idea for footless pantyhose, she didn't conduct extensive market research or write a detailed business plan. She didn't have manufacturing experience or industry connections. What she did have was a prototype cut from her own pantyhose, and the willingness to take action before having all the answers. Blakely spent 2 years working her day job while developing Spanx in the evenings, learning as she went. She didn't wait to understand every aspect of the hosiery industry. She started making phone calls to manufacturers. When they dismissed her, she drove to North Carolina and started visiting manufacturing plants in person. Each action, regardless of outcome, provided clarity for the next step. Most tellingly, when asked about her success, Blakely often credits her lack of industry knowledge as an advantage. Because she didn't know the right way to do things, she wasn't constrained by conventional wisdom. Her naivety became her innovation engine, allowing her to question assumptions that industry veterans took for granted. This pattern repeats across nearly every field of achievement. The most successful people aren't those who wait for perfect clarity. They're the ones who use action to create clarity. They understand that clarity isn't a prerequisite for action, it's a result of it. The key lies in reframing uncertainty from a barrier to a tool. Instead of seeing unclear outcomes as a reason to hesitate, view them as an opportunity to gather real-world data. Each action, regardless of result, provides information you couldn't have gained through planning. Take these practical strategies for leveraging uncertainty. Start with minimum viable action, the smallest step that will generate real feedback. Don't try to solve every potential problem before beginning. Embrace the clarity cascade. Each action creates clarity that informs the next action, creating a self-reinforcing cycle of progress. Use time boxing to limit overthinking. Give yourself strict time frames for planning versus action, forcing decisions before perfect clarity arrives. Adrian's story perfectly illustrates these principles in action. A developer with no media experience, Adrian had been planning to start a podcast about indie game development for over a year. He had elaborate spreadsheets detailing potential topics, equipment comparisons, and marketing strategies. Yet month after month, no podcast materialized. Finally, frustrated with his own analysis paralysis, Adrian made a radical decision. He would record and publish his first episode within 48 hours, using whatever equipment he had available. The result was far from perfect. He used his phone's built-in microphone, stumbled over his words, and barely scratched the surface of his intended topic. But something remarkable happened. That imperfect action generated more clarity than a year of planning. He learned how his voice actually sounded in a recording, discovered which topics he could speak about fluently versus those that needed more research, and identified technical issues he never would have anticipated. Most importantly, he had real feedback from actual listeners. Their questions and comments shaped future episodes in ways he never could have predicted. Within 6 months, his podcast had found its voice and built a dedicated following. Not despite starting before he was ready, but because of it. The key to Adrian's success wasn't in abandoning planning altogether, but in recognizing when planning had become a form of procrastination. He shifted from seeking clarity through analysis to creating clarity through action. This approach isn't just about business or creative projects. It applies to any area where uncertainty might be holding you back. Whether you're considering a career change, starting a fitness routine, or learning a new skill, waiting for perfect clarity is often counterproductive. Instead, adopt these practical techniques for action-first clarity. The 5-minute sprint. When facing uncertainty, commit to just 5 minutes of direct engagement with the task. This tiny commitment bypasses your brain's threat response while generating real-world feedback. The Clarity Journal. After each action, briefly note what you learned. This creates a tangible record of how action generates understanding, reinforcing the benefit of movement over analysis. The Uncertainty Ladder. Break down your goal into smaller steps, ranking them by uncertainty level. Start with the most certain step, using the momentum to tackle increasingly uncertain actions. Remember, the goal isn't to eliminate uncertainty. It's to become comfortable operating within it. Each time you take action before having perfect clarity, you strengthen your capacity for productive uncertainty. Your challenge for today is simple but powerful. Identify one project or goal where you've been waiting for perfect clarity. Now, commit to taking one concrete action in the next hour, before you feel ready. The action should be small enough to complete quickly, but substantial enough to generate real feedback. What will you learn by doing instead of planning? Chapter 14. The Focus Revolution. Ping new email, ding text message, buzz social media notification, beep calendar reminder, swoosh instant message. In the time it took you to read those 5 notifications, your brain has already shifted attention modes at least 7 times. Studies show the average person is interrupted every 40 seconds when working at their computer. That's 1,200 attention shifts in a typical 8-hour workday. Each switch depletes your mental energy and fractures your ability to maintain deep focus. This isn't just about productivity, it's rewiring your brain. Every time you respond to a notification, you're strengthening neural pathways that make you more susceptible to distraction. Your attention span isn't just being challenged, it's being systematically dismantled, one ping at a time. The human brain wasn't designed for this constant barrage of interruptions. While we pride ourselves on multitasking, neuroscience reveals a stark truth. Your brain can't actually process multiple attention-demanding tasks simultaneously. What we call multitasking is really just rapid task switching, and each switch comes with a cognitive cost. This cost, known as attention residue, means part of your brain remains stuck on the previous task even as you move to the next one. It's like trying to drive while still thinking about the argument you just had. You're not fully present in either moment. But here's where it gets interesting. Your brain's focus mechanism isn't fixed. It's trainable. Like a muscle, attention can be strengthened through strategic exercise. Understanding this biological reality is crucial because it means you're not fighting against your nature when you work to improve focus. You're working with your brain's natural capacity for growth and adaptation. Bill Gates, despite, or perhaps because of, running one of the world's largest technology companies, recognized the critical importance of sustained focus early in his career. Twice a year, Gates retreats to a secluded cabin for what he calls think weeks, 7 days of uninterrupted deep thinking and reading. During these periods, Gates disconnects completely from the digital world. No phones, no emails, no meetings. He brings only books and papers related to the big questions he wants to explore. This isn't just executive luxury, it's strategic necessity. Many of Microsoft's most important strategic shifts, including the famous 1995 Internet tidal wave memo that redirected the entire company's focus toward the emerging Internet, emerged from these periods of intense concentration. What's particularly noteworthy about Gates's approach is its progressive nature. He didn't start with week-long focus sessions. In the early days of Microsoft, he began with shorter periods of protected time, gradually expanding them as his focus muscles strengthened. This progressive training approach is key to developing sustainable focus habits. The science behind this approach is fascinating. When you maintain focused attention, your brain produces beta waves, associated with active processing, and gamma waves, linked to learning and memory formation. Extended periods of focus actually strengthen the neural networks responsible for attention control, making it easier to maintain concentration in the future. But here's the crucial insight. Trying to force yourself into hours of deep focus immediately is like trying to run a marathon without training. You'll likely fail and reinforce the belief that you can't focus. Instead, you need to progressively build your attention and stamina through strategic practice. This brings us to practical application. The key to developing unbreakable focus lies in understanding and working with your brain's natural attention cycles. Research shows that our brains naturally oscillate between periods of high focus and necessary recovery. Fighting this pattern is counterproductive. Working with it is transformative. Start by creating what neuroscientists call attention anchors, environmental and behavioral triggers that signal to your brain it's time for deep focus. This might include physical anchors like a specific workspace cleared of distractions, temporal anchors like consistent focus periods, sensory anchors like background music or white noise, ritual anchors like a pre-focus routine. The goal isn't to maintain perfect focus indefinitely. That's neither possible nor desirable. Instead, Aim to create protected periods of concentration that gradually increase in duration as your focus muscles strengthen. Lily's story perfectly illustrates how this progressive approach transforms performance. As a medical student struggling with information overload, Lily found herself constantly switching between textbooks, online resources, and study guides, retaining little despite hours of studying. After multiple failed exams, Lily discovered the concept of progressive focus training. She started small, using a simple timer to create 10-minute blocks of completely uninterrupted study time. During these periods, she would focus on a single topic, ignoring all distractions. Between blocks, she allowed herself short recovery periods. The key to Lily's success was consistency and gradual progression. Each week, she increased her focus blocks by 5 minutes. Anytime she struggled to maintain attention, she would drop back to the previous level until it felt comfortable again. She tracked her progress in a simple journal, noting both her focus duration and the quality of her concentration. Within 3 months, Lily could maintain deep focus for 45-minute stretches. Her exam scores improved dramatically, not because she was studying more, but because she was studying with complete attention. More importantly, she reported feeling less mentally exhausted at the end of each day, despite accomplishing more. The most surprising benefit came in other areas of her life. As her focus muscles strengthened, she found herself more present in conversations, more engaged in lectures, and better able to resist digital distractions during leisure time. The skills she developed through deliberate practice transferred to all aspects of her life. This brings us to your transformation. The path to unbreakable focus starts with a single step: creating your first focus block. Right now, your brain is probably offering reasons why you can't start today. Too busy, too many responsibilities, too many urgent tasks. This is exactly why you must start now. Your challenge is simple but powerful. Set a timer for 10 minutes. During this time, work on one important task with complete focus. No phones, no email, no distractions. Just you and the task at hand. When the timer rings, stop and note how it felt. Don't judge your performance. Simply observe your experience. This isn't about achieving perfect focus immediately. It's about taking the first step in training your attention muscles. Tomorrow, you'll do it again, gradually building the neural pathways that make sustained focus possible. What will you discover in your first 10 minutes of truly uninterrupted focus? Chapter 15. The Energy Advantage. You remember that day, the one where everything just clicked. Tasks that normally felt like climbing mountains became effortless stepping stones. Your mind was sharp, decisions came easily, and procrastination seemed like a distant memory. By evening, you'd accomplished more than you typically manage in 3 days. But here's what you might not realize. Trying to replicate that day's schedule without understanding the invisible force that made it possible is like trying to catch lightning in a bottle. That force? Your biological energy rhythm. And it's the key to consistent, sustainable action. Most productivity advice focuses on time management, but time is just the container. Energy is the content. You can have all the time in the world, but without the right energy, you'll still find yourself scrolling through social media instead of tackling important tasks. The science behind this is fascinating. Your brain operates on a complex series of biological rhythms that influence everything from cognitive function to willpower. These aren't just simple sleep-wake cycles. They're intricate patterns of peak performance and necessary recovery that repeat throughout your day. Let's talk about how Tony Robbins, known for his incredibly demanding speaking schedule, maintains his legendary energy levels. While many assume it's pure stamina or motivation, the reality reveals a sophisticated understanding of personal energy management. Robbins doesn't just power through. He strategically designs his schedule around his natural energy peaks. Before giving a major presentation, Robbins engages in what he calls priming, a morning routine that includes physical movement, breathing exercises, and cold water immersion. But what's less known is how he structures his entire day around his body's natural rhythms. He front-loads his most demanding speaking engagements during his peak energy windows, typically mid-morning to early afternoon. During one particularly challenging tour, Robbins was scheduled to speak for 12 hours daily for 4 consecutive days. Instead of trying to maintain constant high energy, he broke his presentations into 90-minute segments aligned with his body's natural ultradian rhythm, the cycle of peak performance and recovery that occurs throughout the day. Between segments, he would completely disconnect for 15 to 20 minutes, allowing his energy to naturally replenish. The results were remarkable. While other speakers might struggle to maintain energy for a single day-long session, Robbins could sustain peak performance for 4 consecutive days. By working with his body's natural rhythms rather than against them, he transformed what seemed like an impossible schedule into a sustainable routine. This isn't just about speaking engagements or high-intensity performance. Your brain's energy patterns affect every aspect of your productivity, from creative work to decision-making to physical tasks. Understanding and leveraging these patterns can mean the difference between fighting procrastination all day and flowing naturally from task to task. The key lies in recognizing that your energy isn't meant to be constant. Your brain naturally oscillates between periods of high focus and necessary recovery approximately every 90 minutes. This ultradian rhythm is hardwired into your biology. Fighting it is like trying to hold your breath indefinitely. You might succeed for a while, but eventually, biology wins. Consider Peter, a designer who struggled with consistent creative output. He would sit at his desk for 8 straight hours, becoming increasingly frustrated as his creativity and focus diminished throughout the day. Despite working longer hours, his productivity was declining, and procrastination was becoming a bigger problem. Through energy tracking, Peter discovered his creative energy peaked in 2 distinct windows: early morning, 7 to 9 a.m., and late afternoon, 4 to 6 p.m. Instead of forcing himself to design continuously, he restructured his day around these natural peaks. He scheduled client meetings and administrative tasks during his lower energy periods and protected his peak windows for pure creative work. The transformation was dramatic. Not only did his output double, but the quality of his work improved significantly. More importantly, procrastination nearly vanished during his peak windows because he was working with his brain's natural rhythm rather than against it. Peter's key insight was that energy management isn't about maintaining constant high energy. It's about strategically using your natural peaks and respecting your necessary recovery periods. He learned to treat his energy like waves in the ocean. You can ride them, but you can't control them. This brings us to your transformation. The first step is understanding your personal energy patterns. While everyone follows the basic ultradian rhythm, the timing and intensity of your peaks and valleys are unique to you. Some people experience their highest energy early in the morning. Others come alive late at night. The key is identifying your personal pattern. Start by creating what scientists call an energy map. For the next 3 days, rate your energy levels on a scale of 1 to 10 every hour you're awake. Note not just your overall energy, but specifically your mental focus. How easily can you concentrate? Creative energy. How freely do ideas flow? Physical energy. How does your body feel? Emotional energy. What's your mood and motivation level? Look for patterns in when you naturally feel most capable of different types of tasks. When do you find it easiest to tackle challenging work? When do you typically start procrastinating? These patterns reveal your personal energy blueprint. Once you have this data, you can begin strategically aligning your tasks with your energy levels. The goal isn't to fight your natural rhythms, but to leverage them. Schedule your most important or challenging tasks during your peak energy windows. Use lower energy periods for administrative work, routine tasks, or necessary recovery. This brings us to your immediate challenge. Begin your energy mapping today. Right now, note your current energy levels across all 4 dimensions: mental, creative, physical, emotional. Set a simple hourly reminder on your phone. Each time it rings, take 30 seconds to record your energy levels and what you're doing at that moment. This isn't just about collecting data. It's about developing awareness of your natural rhythms and how they affect your tendency to take action or procrastinate. What patterns will you discover in your personal energy landscape? Conclusion. Every journey has a moment of transformation, that pivot point where everything changes. For you, that moment is now. As you stand at this threshold between who you were and who you're becoming, take a moment to appreciate the profound shift in your understanding of how your brain works and how to harness its natural tendencies. Your transformation follows a path. You've moved beyond simplistic solutions and quick fixes to develop a sophisticated understanding of your own psychological mechanisms. This isn't just about getting things done. It's about fundamentally changing your relationship with action and achievement. Evaluate how your approach to tasks has evolved. Where once you might have waited for motivation or the perfect moment, you now understand that action precedes motivation. Your environment is no longer just a backdrop, but a carefully designed system that makes productive behavior inevitable. Even procrastination has been transformed from an obstacle into a strategic tool for channeling energy effectively. Studies show that when we align our strategies with our brain's natural tendencies, we create new neural pathways that make productive behavior increasingly automatic. Each small success strengthens these pathways, making future action easier and more natural. This brings us to your path forward. The system you've built isn't static. It's designed to evolve with you. As you tackle new challenges and set bigger goals, these principles will adapt and scale. The key is continuing to trust the process, knowing that each action, no matter how small, contributes to your ongoing transformation. Thank you for listening and for investing in yourself. I believe in you. Your potential is endless. Now go out there and create the life you deserve.